How's it going, everybody? Welcome to this week's video. I just got back from a river float on the Umpqua River and we caught some nice smallmouth. So in the spirit of catching smallmouth, I'm going to talk about one of the most popular and prolific smallmouth baits of pretty much all time. That's just the standard old tube. As you can see, I have my tube boxes here. I have 3 tube boxes. You guys are probably wondering why I have so many tubes for such a simple bait. You know, really they're all pretty similar. But I like to have a lot of colors, and they're pretty cheap, cost-effective bait, and I don't know, they catch some nice fish too, big largemouth and smallies really. So we're gonna jump right in. I got just an older box full of little Gitsits, and take out a couple. And what I'm going to talk about in this video is some of my favorite colors, alongside what a tube imitates, because a lot of people will think tube, and they depending on where you're at in the country, typically you're going to think crawdad, a craw imitation. But in the Northeast, obviously they have gobies, and the tube's a really good goby imitation. In the Northwest, we have a lot of sculpins and small little bottom dwelling, you know, tube shaped type of fish. So we throw tubes a lot, not necessarily to imitate crawdads entirely, but also to imitate sculpins. So as you guys can see, I keep typically my 3.5 inch tubes are standard colors: light green, brown, black, you know, mixes in between, in and out. As far as color selection goes, you obviously always want to try to match your forage as good as you can. One of my favorite colors is this old ugly type color. This is a Skinny Bear tube right here, and this color is like magical. I don't know what it is about this color. It blends into the most bottoms pretty good. It's just kind of like a light snot colored green color, and it works really, really good. And then I have my bigger tube box here. These are, you know, a little bit bigger, like maybe largemouth sized tubes. I got some Reaction Innovations flipping tubes in there, work really good for flipping. You can see a lot of greens and browns, you know, some kind of mixed colored Gitsits and stuff like that. But I'm going to try to match my color to the forage, obviously, first and foremost, and then the water clarity. Dirtier water, I'm going to typically alter over to blacks. They've even done good on a white tube in dirty water. You know, and then clear water, I'm going to shift more towards like baitfish colors, little bluegill colors a lot of times, to really clear greens. Like that work really good. And then the last thing I want to talk about is the head design you're going to put in your tube. A lot of people buy a tube head and think that, you know, they're all kind of the same or whatever. They're really not. There's 2 main styles. You have a ball head, which I have in here. It's just your standard round ball jig head. I like to use heavy ones, you know, 1/4 ounce to 3/8 of an ounce. Typically fish them on a bait cast rod or maybe a heavier spinning rod, and I cast them out and kind of just like to drag them and pop them along the bottom, almost like a jig. This is the one I really like, you know, just for casting into deep water and stuff. Obviously it's heavier. Why I like fishing the ball head in deeper water is because this style head, your typical tube head with the teardrop shaped head, is actually going to spiral in the water. If you guys have never watched a tube fall in the water, insert a couple different jig heads and actually watch how they do perform differently. I like these conical shaped jig heads when I'm imitating bait fish like sculpin, because if you watch a sculpin and you roll up on it and you scare it, it darts, you know, just a couple feet one way or the other. So this type of head is going to add an unpredictable action to your tube. And a lot of times what I do with this type head is I'll cast it out, it's going to spiral down on the fall, and then I'll rip it up and pop it a couple times. And what that's going to do is really effectively imitate that sculpin. You're going to let it hit the bottom and pop it. It's going to dart one way or the other, and smallmouth really go crazy for it. So kind of generalized overview of tube fishing. Some of my favorite colors, again, the old ugly green pumpkins are pretty standard, and then switching to blacks and stuff like that in dirtier water. As far as tube size goes, for smallmouth I usually just run a 3.5 inch tube, largemouth 4.5 or even 5 inch, like a flipping tube. But tubes are they're not as popular as they used to be, and they're really effective bait. So I definitely encourage you guys to maybe fish a tube and see if the old school technique is going to outperform the new age, you know, whatever's hot right now. So throw a tube a little bit, think about what style head you're going to use and what color to use, and you guys will be in good shape. I'm sure tube will work for probably the rest of the time as far as bass fishing is concerned. So thanks for viewing. Stay tuned for next week, and we'll have some more tips for you guys.